Revealed: how a $15,000 fine from a millionaire judge sparked an incredible transformation. Mary Thompson stood behind the counter of the diner, the scent of greasy fries mingling with the morning coffee permeating the air. The familiar clatter of dishes echoed around her, a soundtrack to the life she managed here, juggling orders and keeping an eye on the clock. At 38, being a single mom to a rebellious teenage son, Jake, was exhausting, yet she wore her smile like armor. Each shift felt like tread on thin ice, especially with the warnings of rent bills stacking up in the corner of her cluttered kitchen. But on this evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting hues of orange and gold, her resolve crumbled. The registered letter delivered that day lay before her, the imposing envelope containing a damning $15,000 fine handed down by Judge Robert Sinclair, a man known for wielding the law like a sword. The accusation stemmed from Jake's foolish trespass into an abandoned building, but the media turned a minor incident into a sensational spectacle. The words tore through her like jagged glass: negligence, responsibility, your son's actions. How could her boy's reckless moment lead to this financial catastrophe, a penalty that felt less like justice and more like a punishment? Mary's breath caught in her throat. A wave of despair washed over her, suffocating her. She feared the eviction notices would soon follow, closing in on their small home that felt more precarious with each passing day. Her life, a mixture of shifts at the diner and late-night cleaning jobs, seemed trivial against a judge's gavel. She couldn't shake the image of Jake's confusion, mixed with her silent anguish as they faced this looming disaster together, one they had never anticipated. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days turned to nights in a blur of cleaning tables and scrubbing floors, yet amidst this haze, an old family secret stirred within her, the realization that her father, a former attorney known for championing justice for the less fortunate, had left behind more than just memories. Her heart trembled with rediscovery. Had she unwittingly allowed his legacy to fall dormant? With each shift that passed, she clung to the legal books borrowed from Old Man Hargrove, the local attorney who once admired her father. This was her chance, a flicker of hope igniting amid the growing darkness surrounding her. But doubt gnawed at her as she studied late into the night, wrestling with spiraling thoughts concerning Jake's anger and detachment. What if she failed him again? What if their bond fractured beyond repair? As the day of the court appearance approached, a weight had settled deep in her chest, a gnawing sense of urgency mounting. Exhausted but resolved, Mary prepared herself for the court battle with Judge Sinclair, the air crackling with unspoken tension. This wasn't just a fight for financial survival. It was a quest to reclaim their dignity, a stand against the legal system that felt rigged against her. With her family's future teetering on the edge, she felt each heartbeat echo potential destruction. The gavel stood between despair and validation, while her son's faltering footsteps echoed in the back of her mind. Would their fractured relationship withstand this storm, or would it shatter under the relentless pressure of a courtroom showdown? The very thought made her stomach twist like a coiled spring, pushing her deeper into the abyss of uncertainty as the confrontation with Judge Sinclair loomed large, leaving her teetering on a precipice of hope and sheer desperation. The courtroom was an orchestra of tension and whispered doubts as Mary stepped forward, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The polished wood of the judge's bench loomed above her, and she could almost feel Judge Sinclair's steely gaze piercing through her. This was her moment, yet it felt shrouded in shadows, as if the very air conspired against her. Standing beside her, Old Man Hargrove radiated quiet confidence. He had tackled more formidable opponents in his lifetime, but Mary felt dwarfed by the weight of the accusation against her. She believed in justice. She had witnessed her father's passionate battles defending those unable to afford representation. Now, however, she found herself unarmed, her resolve faltering beneath the weight of the situation. The judge began addressing the court, his voice echoing like a tolling bell. Mary's thoughts spiraled. Images of her life outside this space rushed through her. The diner, the hurried dinners, Jake's strained gaze whenever their financial struggles crept into conversations. They all collided, fueling her determination. This didn't just impact her, it affected everything they had built together. "Miss Thompson," the judge's voice snapped her back to the moment, "you are aware of the gravity of these charges." "Yes, Your Honor," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I understand the implications." Mary's surprise at her own strength surprised her. Could she face this man who represented everything she resented in that moment? Could she balance respect for the law with the fiery need to defend her family? Hargrove leaned closer, whispering strategic reminders. His words were a lifeline, pulling her through the current of doubt. Relying on the knowledge she had absorbed from his books and counsel, she focused. She had practiced how to articulate her argument, every line rehearsed until they felt like second nature. When it was her turn to speak, she stood taller, seeking eye contact with Sinclair. "Your Honor, my son is not a delinquent. He made a mistake, and I can assure you he understands the seriousness of his actions. I am here to take responsibility, not just for the fine, but to assure you that I will ensure he learns and grows from this." The judge eyed her, skepticism flickering across his features. The air thickened, tension cracking like a whip. Mary retained her composure, forcing her heart to steady as her honesty unfurled before him. This was about more than penalties. It was about affirming her role as a mother, about fighting to preserve the integrity of their bond. Judge Sinclair furrowed his brow, contemplating her words. Had she surprised him, or was he merely toying with her desperation? Each second crawl-danced, the weight of uncertainty amplifying as the judge spoke. "I appreciate your candor, Miss Thompson, but there are rules. Please, Your Honor, I am prepared to work, to contribute to the community service mandated. I don't want a handout. I want to prove that I can overcome this, for my son's sake and my own." Each syllable resonated, not just within the courtroom, but within herself. For the first time she realized this was the moment she had been waiting for, an opportunity to reclaim her agency and assert her identity beyond the confines of her circumstances. The hearing progressed, with fitting arguments weaving through the air, a mix of heartfelt pleas and legal overtones. Time stretched like taffy, and as she concluded her statement, Mary felt a dual flame burning within her. Could she rise from this ordeal transformed, even independent of the outcome? With the final gavel fall inching closer, doubt crept in again. Yet there lay a familiar spark of defiance deep in her chest. Would she walk away reborn from this confrontation, or diminished by another harsh verdict? The moment was suspended, the dawning realization unfurled slowly within her. This situation might be the catalyst for something far greater than a mere acquittal. As she awaited the judge's decision, a quiet determination started to crystallize inside her. She was ready to embrace what came next, whatever shape it might take. But first, she had to face the repercussions of the judge's ruling. What lay in the balance would not only determine her fate, but also the future of her and Jake's relationship. What truths would this confrontation reveal, and how far was she willing to go to protect him?
The judge's gavel fell with a resounding finality, echoing in the courtroom like a thunderclap. "Miss Thompson, you will be fined $15,000.
The words washed over Mary in waves of disbelief and dread, each pulse calling her back to the fragile reality of her life. Hargrove's expression shifted subtly, but the disappointment was masked by an understanding that transcended mere legal confines. She could feel her heart sink into the depths of her stomach, but amidst the despair, an ember sparked to life. This wasn't the end. It was a call to action, an awakening. After the hearing, Mary stepped into the crisp air, the faint scent of impending rain lingering like an omen. She had a decision to make, one that could either anchor her or set her adrift. She turned her thoughts toward the fine, the weight of it heavy, but the heavier burden loomed on the horizon, the impact on her relationship with Jake. Her mind raced. She couldn't rely on anyone but herself to navigate this murky terrain. How could she raise the money? Where could she find the strength to push through this seemingly insurmountable challenge? Engulfed in a whirlwind of doubt, the flicker of determination refused to extinguish. She couldn't allow this cost to define her or her son's future. In the days that followed, Mary immersed herself in the pursuit of both work and understanding. She walked past the diner where she had spent relentless hours, noting its faded paint and chipped facade, a reflection of her own perceptions. Each shift there had been a step further into complacency, yet now she craved something more than just survival. She yearned for mastery over her fate. There was untapped potential in her, a reserve of strength waiting to be discovered. That first night back at the diner, she found the confidence to confront her old self. The clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation were both familiar and jarring. As her hands moved mechanically, the gears in her mind began to shift. What if she could transform her skills into something greater? That thought lingered, echoing through the simplest of tasks. Evenings bled into nights as Mary sought through avenues of side jobs, freelancing, tutoring, learning. Each new venture felt like a seed planted in a barren field. The challenge was daunting, but the thought of Jake's future propelled her forward. She reminded herself that she could push harder than ever before. Social networks began to take shape, some old, others new, which became a lifeline as she reached out to those who had once seemed beyond her reach. Every conversation fueled her ambition. Even connections from her past returned with offers of temporary gigs that aligned with her newfound fervor. As the weeks progressed, what began as desperation morphed into a relentless pursuit. There were moments of sluggish setback, clients who flaked, payments that lagged, but with each rejection, Mary's resilience grew. It began to feel less like a weight and more like a burden she was willingly carrying for herself and for Jake. Each task became a testament to her evolving character. One evening, while checking accounts, her breath caught. She was inching toward her goal, and the dream of purchase, a small office space dedicated to providing legal advice to families in her situation, took form in her mind. Only then did it dawn on Mary that the outcome of her court case was more than an opposition to those who accused her. It was a catalyst, a turning point. She realized the ruling would serve as a reminder of how far she had come, irrespective of the fine hanging over her head. But in taking the reins of her future, Mary felt a whisper of doubt creeping in. Would it be enough, or would the lingering financial strain jeopardize all she'd built, not just professionally, but personally as well? With that tension brewing, Mary's resolve hardened. She needed to confront not only her adversaries in the legal system, but the deepest fears within herself. She could no longer retreat into the shadows of doubt. The stakes were too high. The roads ahead, whether lined with triumph or struggle, awaited her embrace. Rubbing her weary eyes, the determination settled anew in the core of her being. Whatever awaited her next, success or failure, she was ready to confront it head on. And then came a message, a familiar name on her phone, pulling her back to the reality of her situation. "I need to speak with you. It's about Jake." The tension pulled taut in her chest, a reminder of how intertwined her fate remained with her son. The very mention of him intensified her commitment and resolve. Would she have to navigate the next challenge alone, or was help on the horizon just when she needed it most? Mary stared at her phone, her heart racing as she fumbled for the courage to respond. The message loomed large, hinting at a conversation that could alter everything she'd clawed her way toward. "I need to speak with you. It's about Jake." Jake, her lifeline, her reason for pushing through the chaos that had become her life. With a deep breath, she steadied herself and typed back a quick reply. "Can we meet tomorrow?" The seconds felt like hours as she awaited a response. Finally, a simple yes arrived, like a bolt of clarity in the swirling storm of her thoughts. The following day, the air was thick with the scent of impending rain, mirroring the knot tightening in her stomach. She met Jake's teacher in a small coffee shop, an atmosphere that usually calmed her nerves, but today felt different. Today brought uncertainty, as she wasn't just her mother, but a candidate for partnership in setting their future. As they sat, Mary found herself asking questions she'd buried deep. How had they reached this point? Was Jake falling behind? She could read the hesitation on his teacher's face, a subtle grimace as he navigated how to impart news she wasn't prepared to hear. "Jake has been struggling a bit with math, and I think he could benefit from extra tutoring." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Could she even afford that? Might he think less of her for the setbacks? She fought to maintain her composure. "I'll help him. I want to help him succeed," Mary asserted, though a whisper of doubt threaded her voice. Inside, her mind raced to find a plausible solution. The freelance work, while promising, was still a patchwork quilt of earnings that barely met her needs. Did she have enough to spare for tutoring on top of everything else? "Perhaps there's a way to make tutoring more affordable," he suggested. "We could group him with a couple of other students." The teacher's words jolted something inside her. Assisting Jake genuinely enriched her sense of purpose, a role she needed to fulfill both as a mother and as an individual reclaiming her life. Emboldened, Mary left the coffee shop with a plan. She reached out to other parents, blending her need for community engagement with a subtle inquiry into their children's struggles in school. The conversations that followed were illuminating, revealing that she wasn't alone in her worries. Other families faced similar dilemmas, and suddenly an informal tutoring group began to take shape. This newfound initiative not only alleviated the burden of the tutoring costs, but also ignited a fire in her. She was consolidating her network, becoming a point of contact, someone who could rally others while simultaneously fortifying her standing within the community. The sense of agency was intoxicating as she drafted a plan of implementation, envisioning how the group could grow. She took notes diligently, meticulously adapting old lessons learned in law school to create a more relatable tutoring framework for children like Jake. Every word written heightened her confidence, fueling the hunger to create a space where she could eventually expand into providing legal insights as well. But amidst the burgeoning growth, lurking shadows whispered doubt. Would the group truly succeed? Would parents trust her enough to seek assistance? As her plan unfolded, impatience teased her, edging her closer to overwhelm. The idea of the legal profession still gnawed at her, a potential transformative pivot from mere survival to empowerment. She recalled the dream of having her own space, where not only could she offer tutoring, but could also nurture others who found themselves in dire need, just like she had been. With every ounce of her being urging her on, Mary made a decision. She would not shy away from this uncertainty, but rather embrace it, harnessing her own life experiences to mold her aspirations into reality. Every setback would be an avenue for learning. Every connection would further her mission. As she sat at her kitchen table, papers scattered around her like petals from a blooming flower, she contemplated her next steps. The vision was clear now, a vibrant tapestry of purpose and intention that begged her to take action. The stakes were high, but so too were the potential rewards. And then her phone buzzed again, a message that twisted the narrative she had been so carefully crafting. "I hope you can do this," it read. "There's a great opportunity, but it's going to require all of us." A mix of determination and anxiety washed over Mary. What did it mean for them? Would it pull her further from her aspirations, or give her the push she desperately needed? The horizon seemed more ambiguous than ever as she surveyed her choices and the world waiting just outside her door, every decision teetering in a balance that could redefine her entire existence. Mary's heart thundered in her chest as the words on her phone sank in. A great opportunity. What did that even mean? Did it signal a lifeline or a further entanglement in the complexities of her life? The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her shoulders as she contemplated her next moves. Her hunger for change was palpable, yet she found herself at a crossroads. The thought of pursuing the tutoring group while juggling the demands of potential professional growth felt overwhelming. She envisioned herself standing on the precipice, ready to leap, but the ground below was blanketed with doubt and fear of failure. Determined to sift through her feelings, she poured herself a cup of coffee, the familiar ritual grounding her, if only for a moment. Sipping slowly, she drew in the familiar aroma and let it stir memories. Her life had not always been so chaotic. There had been times when she had felt in control, moments when she had relished the satisfaction of completing a case or of standing confidently before a judge. Those moments seemed worlds away now. With renewed focus, she grabbed her laptop and started searching for information on the potential opportunity hinted at in the message. The more she searched, the clearer it became. A new law firm was offering a mentorship program for women seeking to re-enter the field after a career break. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she delved deeper, the prospect igniting a spark in her. Interviewing with established professionals, accessing resources, and honing her legal skills fit perfectly with her long-dormant ambitions. But there was a catch. The jurist running the program was known for his harsh standards. He had a reputation for not suffering fools lightly. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Could she face the scrutiny? Would she have the resilience needed to navigate the judgment of high-stakes professionals? Mary found herself sitting taller, a defiant gleam sparking in her eye. Finding her way back into legal circles appealed to her latent desire for acknowledgement, to prove to herself and others that she was more than just Jake's mother or a struggling freelancer. This was about reclaiming her identity and ambition. In that moment, she realized she would need to be fully committed. The tutoring group would require her attention, but this opportunity called out louder. Could she weave both paths together effectively? It felt like an insurmountable challenge, yet the thought of neglecting either remained intolerable. Her thoughts raced to the potential consequences of following through. Embracing the mentorship could foster greater self-worth, bolster her financial stability, and restore a sense of purpose slowly eroded by years of adversity. At the same time, she could remain an active, present mother and advocate for Jake within the tutoring group, a balance that did not seem easily attainable. Navigating the dichotomy of immediate necessity and long-term aspirations became her new mission. Mary would assemble a detailed plan, graphing out her week with precision. She would dedicate time to her mentoring program while still nurturing the tutoring initiative that inspired her. Her calendar became her battleground, and each entry represented a vow to herself. She designated evenings for lessons tailored for Jake and his new friends, afternoons for mentorship activities, and blocks of time for her own study and reflection. It appeared daunting, and yet liberating. Mary embraced the challenge, setting her sights on a future that felt perilously out of reach, yet tantalizingly close. As she meticulously plotted her days, she felt the stirring of possibility. That phone buzz again broke her concentration. Another message, this time not from the mentor, but from another parent eager to join the tutoring group. "What resources will you be using?" it inquired. Her heart raced with excitement. A ripple of anticipation surged through her. This was a chance to showcase her efforts, her growth, and a manifestation of her hopes. But would she be ready to articulate her vision to others? In a moment, the stakes rose higher again. The opportunity could lead to solidifying her position within the community while opening up crucial paths to her legal career. With her newfound conviction surging through her, Mary seized her phone and began typing with determination. Confidence was beginning to feel like a reality she could touch, if only she embraced the chaos raging around her. But as she paused, the second email chimed in, a stark reminder of everything left unresolved and the pressure mounting against her ambitions. It hinted at an unsettling truth. There are risks. Are you willing to face them? The question ghosted through her mind, visceral and demanding. Could she lean into the discomfort of risk, or would she shy away, surrendering her dreams once more? Mary swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her choices crystallizing. The path to transformation loomed. What lay ahead could redefine not only her future, but her understanding of herself. The indelible truth remained. Taking that first step would require more than a calculation of logistics. It demanded a leap of faith into an unknown laden with both promise and peril.
In that pivotal moment, she knew the journey was not solely about the mentorship or the tutoring group. It was about confronting the layers of her identity, begging to be uncovered. What awaited her beyond the fear was a chance to emerge as the empowered version of herself. But she had to decide how far she was willing to go. With resolve solidifying within, Mary prepared for the next challenge ahead, one that would test her newfound strength with the potential to change everything. Would she embrace the unknowns, or would the daunting prospect of failure pull her back into self-doubt? The question lingered, a pulse beneath her skin that promised her transformation was only beginning. Mary's fingers danced over the keyboard, fueled by a blend of excitement and trepidation. The inquiry from the parent had ignited something within her that transcended mere logistical planning. It awakened the dormant urgency to assume her role as both educator and legal professional. The thrill of being involved in the tutoring group mingled with the streaming thoughts of the mentorship as she crafted her response. Would her vision resonate with others? As the glow of the screen enveloped her, doubts crept in like shadows. Could she confidently articulate her plan without faltering? Would her aspirations flounder under the weight of judgment, especially that fierce mentor looming over her? The thought was suffocating, yet there was a tinge of stubborn resolve that pushed her to conquer these mental barriers. This was a moment to showcase her evolution, not just as a mother, but as a woman reclaiming her professional identity. She hit send, the message departing into the ether like a single bird taking flight. Her heart raced in tandem, matching the intensity of her thoughts. But before she could savor the thrill, another notification pulled her back into reality, an unsettling reminder that risk was not merely a concept. It was a tangible presence. Her mind hummed with the implications of the words she had just read. There are risks. Are you willing to face them? Mary stood, feeling the old uncertainty engendering familiar insecurities, a chill seeping into her bones. The question wasn't just theoretical. It reverberated through her, inviting her to confront her past failures and fears head-on. In a moment of clarity, she realized that wilting under pressure would mean surrendering her voice in both the tutoring group and the mentorship. She had spent far too long holding herself back, a mere shadow of the person she could be. A wave of determination washed over her. What if she chose to embrace the chaos instead of retreating into it? Her vision sharpened. She envisioned the potential impact she might have as she solidified her presence within the tutoring group, a platform from which to inspire not only Jake but the other children, to advocate for them as she found her place within the legal world again.
But to achieve that, she would need to be unwavering in her commitment to both roles. Deciding to take charge of her narrative rather than let it unfold passively, Mary opened her planner, her daily schedule starting to feel less like an imposition and more like a canvas waiting for vibrant strokes. Each day now bore significance. She sketched out blocks of time laced with purpose. New priorities emerged, workshops with fellow parents to gather resources, evenings for the mentorship program, but also snippets of sacred time dedicated exclusively to her son. Mary's resolve crystallized. She would find ways to enrich both lives, threatening and beautiful as this balance might be. As she delved deeper into her plans, the flicker of fear transformed into something electric, excitement. The firm that had initiated the mentorship program had a reputation for pushing boundaries. Maybe, just maybe, that was precisely what she needed. In her mind, she conjured vistas of long-gone ambition, intertwined with the exhilaration of new opportunity. The fleeting memories of courtroom victories began to feel like relics of a past she could reclaim. But commitment came with its own burdens. As she considered the demands of both endeavors, an unsettling question took root. What if she ventured out only to discover she wasn't as capable as she had convinced herself? The prospect of failure loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, charging the air with a foreboding tension. Now, imagining herself standing in the mentor's sharp gaze, she felt the weight of expectation. Would the scrutiny of the legal world further entangle her, or would it thrust her into the arena with renewed vigor? A surge of resolve coursed through her veins. She could choose her narrative, bending the limits of her possibilities. Rejecting the notion of becoming a mere shadow, Mary was on the brink of transformation. As she leaned closer, typing notes to herself for the upcoming mentoring session, her phone buzzed once more. A notification, an uproarious public forum unfolding, tackling an issue inherent in her life's work. Would it demand her participation as an advocate, further complicating her carefully crafted plans? As anticipation enfolded her, she couldn't help but wonder, would this forum become the battleground where she faced the ultimate test of her burgeoning confidence against real-world stakes? The moment felt poised on the edge of becoming. Would she step forward into the light, or retreat once again into the shadow of fear? The glare of the phone screen demanded her attention. The buzz felt like a call to action, urging her towards something greater. With involuntary hesitation, Mary swiped to expose the latest debates within the forum, her curiosity battling her fear of what she might find. The topics were provocative, touching on the very foundations of education, legal ethics, and the urgent need for reform. This was not merely a space for discussion. It was a crucible for change. Engagement simmered like a live wire, and she felt the pull of a truth both daunting and exhilarating. Could she contribute meaningfully? The thought of stepping into this arena, among seasoned voices and opinion leaders who had honed their rhetoric for years, sent a quiver of exhilaration through her core. Yet beneath that, a distinct pang of inadequacy stirred. Standing up, she paced the room, her thoughts spiraling as she weighed the risks against the potential rewards. The intensity of the forum reflected her internal clash. To participate was to expose herself to scrutiny, to wield her vulnerabilities as both armor and weapon. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears as the implications of her decision flickered like shadows, dancing at the edges of her mind. Would she ultimately reveal her commitment to both her professional rebirth and her role as a mother? At that instant, her eyes flickered to her son, tucked away in a corner, engrossed in a coloring book.
A quiet determination blossomed between them, a tether that anchored her amidst the upheaval. For him, she would make this leap. How could she teach him the importance of standing strong, of voicing his opinions, if she wouldn't do the same? With renewed clarity, she sat at her desk, fingers poised over the keyboard. If she was going to dive into this debate, she needed to craft her perspective carefully. It couldn't just be an opinion, it had to reflect the experience she'd gained as an educator, mother, and aspiring legal advocate. The outline began to form in her mind, cornerstones of education woven with the fabric of legal ethics. Her voice would resonate with authenticity, reflecting her journey rather than a rehearsed script. Minute after minute unspooled as she developed her argument, the screen filled with her thoughts, structured and flowing. Each keystroke carried echoes of her own evolution, marching towards that singular goal, to reclaim her narrative with strength and precision. As she read through her words, a knot of anxiety twisted yet again. What if the critique was merciless? The weight of her mentor's expectations loomed heavier, breathing down her neck like a phantom. They had guided many, but their judgment could easily become her prison if she faltered. But falter she would not. She stood firm in her belief that the children deserved advocates who genuinely understood their struggles. If she was going to mentor, she had to embody the very principles she wished to instill. This was no longer just about her. It now encompassed a wider purpose. Finally satisfied with her submission, she paused. A new epiphany washed over her. Engaging in the forum was not just a response to external challenges, it was an exploration of her identity, an invitation to interact with the legal and educational community on her own terms.
What emerged would not only present her capabilities, but also compel others in shared journeys to embolden their voices. As she leaned back, catching a breath, another notification pinged. A reply from the parent she had contacted earlier. Their interest was piqued. They wanted to collaborate. But this time, with the aspiration to connect more deeply, potentially influencing the narrative around educational challenges they faced together. The ground beneath her felt unsteady, yet full of promise. Was this the moment where collaboration converged with purpose? Would it set a chain reaction for her to follow through in both mentoring and the forum? The thought barely settled before adrenaline surged, igniting the fire within her. Yet difficulties could still lurk in the shadows. Could she maintain the balance amidst these escalating commitments? What if she stumbled in trying to weave too many threads at once? With these questions swirling, she resolved to confront whatever came her way. She had entered a new chapter, not only in her professional life, but in her personal journey as well. What would this next discussion entail? Would it embolden her or expose her to vulnerabilities she had yet to uncover? Mary was ready to find out, but the stakes had never felt higher. The evening settled into silence, the only sound the rhythmic scratching of her son's crayon against the coloring book. Mary drew a deep breath, gathering her thoughts like sheets of paper before the wind. Responding to the parent's invitation demanded clarity, strength of purpose to evolve from solitary ambition into shared advocacy. This was new territory, one where risk and opportunity intertwined like a fragile web. The forum's digital chatter buzzed in her mind, mingling with trepidation and excitement about the impending collaboration. Would she be able to articulate her views effectively, to transmit the nuances of her experiences in ways that inspired action? The faces of the seasoned debaters, invisible yet palpable, loomed in her imagination, their discernment like an unwavering spotlight. An unsettling self-doubt whispered for her attention, challenging the vibrant possibilities spinning in her mind. Just a few weeks ago, she had doubted her ability to contribute at all. Now she confronted the challenge of connecting with someone who might possess the same fears, yet carry a wealth of experience.
Would she help them silence their fears, or would her own insecurities derail the momentum? She remembered her own education, the years of absorbing institutional norms that rarely felt attuned to the realities of students' lived experiences. This was the voice she wanted to share, a voice that understood the inadequacies of the system but still saw glimmers of hope within it. Mary thrust her shoulders back, resolving to use clarity as a weapon against self-doubt. She needed to harness her professional background and motherhood to establish a shared vision with this parent.
If they were going to influence educational reform effectively, they had to merge their experiences and fabricate a united front. With each tap of the keyboard, she began to craft a plan. The collaboration would not merely focus on their personal narratives, but create a framework for actionable dialogue. She sketched an outline for a meeting, visualizing the conversation flow. They could exchange stories of hardship and triumph. Conclusions would come later, along with potential initiatives that could emerge from that foundational bond. Just then, her son looked up over his artwork. "Mommy, are you thinking of something you're going to do, like your new project?" "Yes, sweetheart," she replied, a smile finding her lips despite the tension bubbling beneath. His eyes shone with innocent enthusiasm. "Can I help?" A laugh bubbled out of her, unfamiliar yet freeing. The reality of her journey began to solidify. It wasn't only her struggle. It included him, their family dynamic woven into the fabric of her ambitions, the lessons of resilience filtering through their shared lives. "Of course you can, buddy. Thinking about how we can change things together is a very big deal." As the words settled over her like a comforting blanket, the idea of mentorship expanded beyond mere dialogue. It blossomed into a concept of shared objectives. She saw it now. She did not simply need to contribute to the forum. She needed to frame herself as a guiding force alongside others who aspired to amplify their voice. But could she rise to the occasion? Could she shift from providing guidance to opening avenues for others to find their voices? The expectation felt daunting, almost Herculean, yet invigorating. Mary leaned into that feeling, accepting the pressure as a catalyst for growth. Suddenly, the notification chime pierced through her thoughts again, a message from her mentor, a cautious inquiry about her ongoing participations in the forum. "Where do you see your voice fitting into the landscape?" it read, compelling her to balance expectation with authenticity. Her throat tightened, and she took a moment to reflect. She felt she was standing on the precipice of something greater, not simply as a participant, but as a potential leader in a movement she had yet to define. Determination surged once again. The moment had come to turn uncertainty into a bold declaration of her capabilities. Yet, as she drafted a reply, a thought nagged at her. Would her relationship with her mentor be as supportive as she hoped, or would it turn critical when her journey took paths unforeseen? Standing at this juncture, Mary realized that embracing this uncertainty in itself was an evolution of her capabilities. What awaited her in each discussion was unknown, but she felt resolute. She was forging ahead into this new realm, stretching the limits of her understanding.
Would she find allies or critics as she engaged more deeply? As each decision loomed, Mary prepared for what lay ahead, a stark juxtaposition of ambition and vulnerability awaiting revelation. The following morning arrived with a dawn that seemed to set the stage for her intentions, light filtering through the curtains, illuminating the scattered toys across the floor. As Mary brewed her coffee, the aroma filled the kitchen, a gentle reminder that simple routines could provide clarity in chaos. She grasped the mug tightly and thought about her recent revelations, the burgeoning sense of leadership that she was slowly embracing. The looming meeting with the other parent remained a stark fixture in her mind.
Mary tried to pinpoint what had shifted, this eagerness to transform her trepidation into a resource. For so long she had been consumed by the inadequacies of the system, practicing silent frustration while wishing for change. But now she stood on the brink of collaboration, eager to engage, yet anxious about her newfound role. As the minutes ticked away, anxiety twisted within her. The clock's ticking felt like an echo of her self-doubt, whispering chaotically. Each second that passed nudged her toward confrontation, a reminder of the unresolved fear of inadequacy she had battled for years. Was she merely projecting strength, or did she truly possess the capability to lead and inspire? A message flashed on her phone, shattering her thoughts, a reminder for the upcoming meeting. A jolt of energy surged through her. It was time to execute her plan. She opened the digital notes she had created and stared at her outline, her vision carefully traced out on the screen. The bullet points felt both intimidating and empowering, a testament to the universe of possibilities awaiting her. "Today you connect," she whispered to herself, a mantra that solidified her resolve. Each point outlined in her notes acted as a guide, a roadmap through the potential chaos of shared narratives. At the designated time, Mary logged on to the virtual forum. The screen filled with faces, each participant bringing unique stories and emotions. Her heartbeat quickened, a symphony of nerves and anticipation swelling within her. As one of the more seasoned participants began to speak, Mary noticed the delicate balance of confidence and vulnerability they displayed. It struck her. Leadership wasn't just about authority, it was about connection, acknowledging fears while guiding others through them. When she finally had the opportunity to speak, the room felt electric. "Hello, everyone," she began, her voice wavering slightly. "I'm Mary, and I'm here because I believe in the power of our narratives." As she spoke, confidence simmered through her vulnerabilities, pulling the fragments of her past into a cohesive narrative. Each story shared, pains and triumphs, served to build a bridge. The gravity of their collective experiences anchored them, allowing Mary to fortify her approach. She listened keenly, interested in how struggles paralleled her own, the resonance rippling through the participants. Later, they drifted into dialogue, and ideas flowed like water from a spring, vibrant and inspiring. For the first time, she felt it, the community they were building, not in numbers, but in understanding. However, amid this newfound aspiration, a seed of doubt teased her subconscious. Would the relationships she cultivated withstand the challenges ahead? Could she sustain this momentum in a world often dampened by criticism and skepticism? As the meeting wrapped, Mary felt a sense of momentum she had scarcely believed possible just days prior, yet uncertainty lingered. It was apparent that nurturing these connections required continual effort. A shift within her identity had irrevocably begun, transforming her into someone willing to face criticism and challenge with resilience. And then, as if a dam had burst, the reality of what lay ahead rushed in. What if their newfound camaraderie was tested? What if adversaries emerged, questioning their motives? As she contemplated the potential conflicts that loomed in the path of change, she couldn't shake the feeling that the toughest battles were yet to come. The tension of those thoughts wrapped around her, holding her in place. At that moment, standing at the intersection of clarity and uncertainty, Mary understood she had taken the first step into a larger arena. She would have to confront the inevitable pushback and criticisms that came with advocacy. Would she withstand the pressure, or would her resolve falter in the face of adversity? A message blinked on her screen, the face of her mentor reappearing in her mind. "Are you ready for what comes next?" it seemed to ask, another challenge beckoning. Her heart raced as she wrestled with the implications, a deep breath urging her forward into the complexities of her unfolding journey. The question lingered in the air, setting the stage for a confrontation she sensed was approaching, a moment that would define both her advocacy and herself. Mary Thompson leaned against the wall of her small office, surrounded by textbooks, legal documents, and vibrant posters made by her son, Jake. The echo of a vibrant tutoring session faded, leaving behind an atmosphere charged with possibility. This new venture had overhauled her life, igniting a sense of purpose that she hadn't felt in years. Each child she tutored reminded her of not just the systemic hurdles they faced, but also the strength they could cultivate together. They weren't merely students, they were partners in a mission of empowerment. Her commitment to the tutoring group had proven fruitful, garnering attention from parents in the community who shared her vision.
Jake's confidence soared as he watched his mother transform, standing firm within this burgeoning sphere of influence while offering support to children like him. Their bond deepened through shared struggle and achievement, erasing the barriers that had briefly emerged during her tumultuous journey. Transforming adversity into a collective victory felt profoundly fulfilling. Yet tension lurked just beneath the surface. Mary sensed the challenges ahead, a validation that would come from navigating complex questions, confronting critics determined to undermine their progress, and discerning how best to advocate for the children who depended on her. This dual role, a mentor in education and an advocate for legal reform, prickled with dual submission, and recalibrating her trajectory often led her into uncharted territory. One day, as she sifted through the mounting paperwork, a handwritten letter slid into her hands from the local law firm that had once seemed an ambitious dream. They had invited her to a meeting. They noticed her commitment to community service and offered opportunities for collaboration within educational advocacy and legal support. This was her moment, the culmination of all her hard work. Her leap would either propel her forward or threaten her carefully constructed balance. Feeling an exhilarating pulse of confidence, she entered the law office, full of anticipation. The room buzzed with optimism. The lead partner was intrigued by her proposal to integrate legal training into the educational framework, seeing potential for a program that could train parents and children about their rights. Gathered in a room full of experienced attorneys, she felt every inch of her evolution, the insatiable desire to intertwine the threads of legal reform with community upliftment had transformed from a whisper to an echoing declaration of intent. With each word she spoke, Mary felt the ownership of her narrative solidify. She wasn't simply presenting ideas, she was a voice demanding legitimacy and respect, demonstrating that her past had qualified her to stand proudly among them. Those anxious doubts about how she would be perceived melted away, replaced with righteous ambition. When the meeting concluded, applause punctuated the air, solidifying her vision as a shared mission among the professionals in the room. An offer materialized, a partnership for a mentorship program that would help families navigate the legal system, empowering her community to redefine their narratives. They recognized her hard-earned expertise and the power within her personal history. She had fought tooth and nail to reconstruct her life, and now they saw her as a valuable ally in this ongoing battle. Mary stepped back into the sunlight with a mix of elation and disbelief. The undaunting journey had led her to that very moment, where she not only achieved recognition, but solidified her place alongside those whose voices echoed their values of justice.
She had not merely reclaimed her identity. She had redefined what it meant to advocate earnestly and authentically. As Mary walked home that evening, the air felt lighter. She remembered Jake's initial hesitance when they faced the looming fine, and how anger had once clouded their perspective. Now he glided beside her, a buoyant spirit reflecting her own transformation. The laughter they shared was not just an escape, it was a testament to the resilience they had cultivated. With every step, triumph pulsated through her. The sentiment of victory went beyond the confines of legal acknowledgement. It morphed into a convincing assurance that she could bridge any divide and uplift those who felt powerless. She embraced the journey ahead, one that would undoubtedly involve unforeseen challenges, but she knew they had already emerged stronger together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the evening sky with hues of gold and purple, Mary took a deep breath, savoring the air filled with possibilities. She was poised not just to achieve, but to inspire, a legacy of empowerment forged through adversity. Her transformation was complete. She was no longer merely a diner worker, nor a frightened mother facing an enormous fine. She had become a champion for her community, an embodiment of resilience that resonated deeply. And now her newfound purpose beckoned her onward into a future invigorated with potential. You need to subscribe now to our channel to stay updated with powerful stories of personal evolution and triumph. Show your support. Leave a like now to help us reach even more people searching for inspiration. We want to know your thoughts. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Mary's incredible journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative conclusion. Together, let's spread the word about the power of overcoming challenges.